and every individual to leverage the magical arts of positive motivation and manipulation. Oh my gracious, this is Mark Boersma. So excited to be able to share lesson 2 with you. I hope you are gaining as much as I am from this course. Like, I'm going through the course just like you are. It's like, oh my, like there's so much. Like last week, and we had so many people that gave us feedback on how they loved last week's lesson. Like they were just like, oh, like that was like an awakening moment for them. And so if you thought last week's lesson was great, wait until you connect into this week's lesson, because this week's lesson is even more powerful, because it really looks at, something that most people, most of us as human beings think like we're good listeners. But most of us are not. And so when we look at this lesson, if you think you're a good listener, you've just missed it. Like this thing, when I went through this lesson myself, I'm like, oh my gracious, Mark, you're a pathetic listener. Like, wow. Like there's so many more dimensions in this. So let's go ahead and dive in again, going through the engineered clarity, the process of thinking differently that brings satisfaction where you desire clarity. So we've gone through that. Hopefully you've internalized this. How do we know about internalization? We know we've internalized something when it becomes a reflex. If it's not a reflex, we haven't internalized it. And so if we have to think about doing anything, I was sharing with the group in the pre-show here about a woman out of Reno, and her minimum income goal is $50 million. I'm sorry, her WOW income goal is $50 million, and her minimum income goal is $50 million. And so I talked to her yesterday, and there were 2 projects I'm working on that I think could bring her $50 million. And it's all based on leverage, and it's all based on asking questions. But the asking of the questions not only is asking the questions, but then listening as well. And the question that I ask that produced one of these is, if anyone could help you in any area of your life, what would you love help on? And then you wait and listen, and then say, that's interesting. Tell me more. And then you listen deeper. And this one opportunity that Tom's, I'm going to talk to Tom and Peter about, and maybe a bunch of you too, I don't know, it's not multi-million, it's billion with a B. Like this thing is so huge, it's unbelievable. And it's like, I can't believe and it all happened from this question. But I didn't have to think about this question. I didn't have to think about it. It's just a reflex. When I meet somebody new, when I connect with somebody, I'm asking them one of these 2 questions. So do you have it down into a reflex where you're asking one of these 2 questions? Tom, why do you think it's so hard for people to go ahead and figure out how to ask one of these two simple questions all the time?
Well, maybe it could be one of a couple of things. One, they may be afraid to talk to a stranger or somebody that they just met and move into these questions. And 2 is they don't believe that they work. I mean, if they really truly internalize and believe that these questions work and the answers that they would get could lead them to any number of things, then they would just do it.
Okay, so for the first one, I don't know if Tom's the one that gave, and so Tom is a good friend of mine. We've known each other. He's mentored my sons who are now 18 and 20. My youngest 2 sons are 18 and 20. Can you believe, Tom, that they're 18 and 20? Like, is that crazy?
Amazing, isn't it?
I mean, remember when they were 5 and 7. Anyways, my 20-year-old, he took something. I don't know if Tom said this, but it's definitely something Tom would say. And so Ben, he's 20 now. He's got this down really good. But he was struggling when he was 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old with girls. And somebody went ahead and said, Ben, all you need is 5 seconds of courage. And he's like, what does that mean? And it's like, go up and talk to a pretty girl. All you need is 5 seconds. Just say, I'm going to have 5 seconds of courage, and I'm going to go up and talk to her. And so if you're afraid of talking to strangers, if you're a woman, you've never been a 12-year-old boy. But it's terrifying to talk to a girl, like when you're a boy. But if you get 5 seconds of courage, you go, oh, wow, girls are cool. And by and large, most of them, they're nice, and so you can go up and do it. So strangers are cool. Just ask the question. The second aspect of how, like if people don't believe it's going to work, how do you fix that, Tom?
I guess they have to have their 5 seconds of courage, and they have to test it. I mean, the worst thing that can happen is somebody will look at you like you're crazy and walk away.
Now, for you and I, Tom, my wife said, and she said this last week, she says, Mark, do you realize that people kind of, think you're crazy, like you're hanging out with a wizard and stuff? Like, do you realize that people probably think? So Tom and I, like Tom, maybe you can explain it better than I can. Why do you not give a rip if people think you're crazy?
Well, probably because I'm partially crazy. But what I found out is that in looking back over my career, my life, that if I hadn't have stepped up and asked questions or took the first step to introduce myself or talk to somebody, I would have missed out on a lot of opportunities that caused me to be and have some of the great success that I've had so far in my career.
Nice. So we're going to dive further, into this. If you're not asking people their biggest challenge and or asking them what they'd love help with, you might love, what we're sharing in the course, but honestly, you're not going to get anything close out of the course. The course, you're going to learn the most from the course, not by going through the course, but by doing the assignments that we give you. So lesson 1 is ask a question. Like, this is not brain surgery. It is not rocket science. Like, this is not hard. As we get deeper into the 7 lessons, there's going to be some brain surgery, rocket science stuff that we do. But don't make stuff hard that's simple, and don't make things simple that are hard. Lesson 2, today's, is listen. Now, none of us know how to ask questions. Like there was a woman that's leading up Business Sense for Everyday Moms. She came up with a new question that was just absolutely amazing. It's like, oh my gracious, that's an amazing question. Like you're never too old to learn a new question. You're never too smart to go ahead and come up with a better question. And then listening, that's what we're going to look at today. And hopefully for the leverage, for mutual benefit, to everyone. So let's go ahead and dive right in here. All right. So when we look at this, it's leveraging it for mutual benefit. So we're always asking questions and listening for mutual benefit. In my own life, I found that if I try to bring out benefit to other people, that goes over a lot better than me trying to be selfish and looking just for benefit for myself. You might find something different, but that's what I found. So if we do not ask the right questions, and if we do not listen, we will not gain leverage. We need to create a mutually beneficial situation and solution. Like we just won't. So, question, listen, leverage. Tom, should we go on, or do you think we need to spend more time on this?
Well, I feel comfortable with it, but I'm sure maybe we should. It's a pretty simple concept. Ask questions, shut up and listen to what they say, and then be able to take whatever they've said and leverage that into whatever some mutual benefit could be. I mean, It's pretty simple. You got it right there in front of us.
So, you know, all right, so if you're struggling with this concept, all right, and when I say struggling with it, I'm not talking about surface. Like, I'm talking about if you're not doing it, you're not internalizing it, and if you don't internalize this, like this will help you in your marriage. Like, I've been married for 33 years, the most amazing woman on the planet. I have 7 kids. Now they're spouses, and my youngest daughter's getting married soon, and now I have grandkids. Like this will help you in every relationship that you have. And so if you're not using this every day with everybody, you know, you're not internalizing it. And so I understand question, listen, leverage, Mark, go on. Yes, I get that, but are you internalizing it, meaning are you doing it? Because if you are, you're going to be able to talk to your art buddies and your art mentors, and you're going to be sharing with your art group and all these others, like, wow, look at all of these amazing successes that I'm having. So do you have your art mentor? So you shouldn't be assigned to an art mentor, and then you have 2 art buddies. Now, I can't tell you how many courses I've taught and workshops and seminars I've been through. And the magic of this course is art, the atomic ripple reaction tree. Your art mentor will help you to get, you know, to humble you and to get your disciplines down. So you're not as smart, kind, disciplined as what you think you are. So most of us think we're really smart and we're kind and charming and all of that, but the heart mentor will help you to say, you're not that smart. They'll help you. Where you really learn those from your 2 art buddies, because you need to encourage them, you need to help them to go through. Like, are you going to go through 1 lesson a week? Okay, you set out to do it, you do it. No excuses, you make it happen. And then are you doing the assignments between it, or are you just showing up? That's really important. So take at least 10 minutes this week to talk with your art mentor and your 2 art buddies about lesson 1 to make sure you got that down, and then talk about lesson 2. If you're not doing this, okay, we remember the golf pro principle. So it's not the clubs. Like, if this course, if this lesson doesn't change your life forever, it's not because of the course, because you're not following direction. The magic will be in talking to your art mentor and your 2 art buddies about this, because they're going to see things that you don't see. They're going to understand things you don't understand. They're going to call you out on things that, you know, you're not going to call yourself out on. That's the key. So when we look at clarity and bringing all of this together, this is where it starts to connect and start to go in. Now, we're going to be drilling into additional complexity. So some of this, you know, you might be overwhelmed. That's where you go to your art mentor and your art buddies. And so, but never forget the simplicity of leverage. So here's a great website, clarity.dna4success.com. Go to that and it'll help you. So let's dig in to the listening here. So when we look at listening, questions and listening provide leverage. Now, you know, what does that mean? Well, it connects into the boss system, the business operating system, the engine that runs our business, our life. We earn the money we earn, work the hours we work, have the stress we do or don't have because of that engine in our business. There are 3 elements to it. There's the DNA for people, which is personality, masteries. And so that's important for listening. See, if we don't learn to listen based on different personalities, when we're communicating to a different personality, they're not hearing the words that we're saying. If we're not aware of the speaker's personality and taking that into consideration when we're listening, well, then we're not listening well. And so we have me, and then we have other people, and connecting that together. So you'll see the different codes in the model, in the leverage model. And so where it's red, that means a personality. So in listening, we need to listen based on our personality and based on the personality of other people. in addition to that, you'll see there's a red line around seeing. So when we're seeing in our own personality, and we can't see something outside of our personality unless we consider our personality. And then when we're thinking, we think in our own personality. We don't think in somebody else's personality. We think in our own personality. And then when we do, and when we present solutions, all of this, so you see red lines around these other areas because the red lines cause us to pause and say, I'm seeing this solution. For myself, it would be driver analytic. For Tom, he's more complex than I am. He's expressive, at times very analytic, and at times very driver, but he's got more complexity than I do in what he's doing. So he's got more bandwidth, which is both good and bad. So we went from 2 feet of water, Tom, into 20 feet of water, possibly really fast. Questions or thoughts on this, Tom?
I guess my reaction is clarity. It finally clicked for me too. So I'm sure that anybody who's watching this, hopefully it did for you also, as you start to define this whole circle and realize that the red line wasn't just put there. It was put there for a reason, which I should have known that in the first place because I've worked with you so often. You don't just do things to do things. You do things with thought. Yeah, that's amazing.
So you probably won't catch what Tom is catching unless you went through the Personality Masteries course. And you know how to internalize things like Tom internalizes. So you have to go through the course, and you have to internalize like Tom internalized, where he's like, oh my gracious, like, wow, like this is an epiphany. This is like Tom's brain, all of a sudden, all these synapses that were out there got all connected together, and he's just blown away. Because he's a great student. 2 is he internalizes things like nobody's business. It's like crazy. And so, like somebody they put a lot of thought into this. You can trust the integrity of the system. Like, this is really, really thought out. This is really, really cool. And being able to go through it. Now, when we look at the next piece, and so that's positive, motivation and manipulation. And then it's magical, our capability. See, our capabilities with leverage. Our capability with leverage is just massive. And so Tom helped raise over $100 million for Easter seals. And it's like, now that Tom and I have been through this course together, it's like, what's the next step? I don't know, $1 billion? Yeah, let's go after $1 billion. Let's raise $1 billion for, a bunch of great causes. And so intention and capabilities, it comes back again. Now, the second DNA is the DNA for business. This is green. And so this is the financial aspect. It could be if we're an employee, it's our salary or our compensation. So DNA for business, it's the economic engine. This is why everyone in an organization should go through this. Part-time high school student should go through this course. It should require it for everyone in grade school. Like it would help us to learn to ask questions, listen, be great students. So in the DNA for business, you'll see that there are 2 things that are in green. Ask questions, present solution, because it's part of the 530 grid. You'll be exposed to this as we go through the course further. And then when we look at see, think, and do, those are natural laws. That's why it's in blue. So that connects back into the DNA for business. And so 97% of businesses will go out of business in the first 7 years. And so anyone who goes into business and starts their own business is like, the odds are against us. And so whether we own a business or whether we're working for a business, obviously if the one we're working for goes out of business, that's not good for us. We lose our jobs. So learning to take all of these things and better leverage, if we help our employer, if we leverage our gifts to help our employer, our company, our organization that we're working for earn more money, that's not only good for the company, it's good for us as well. Now, when we look at, and then listening connects back in, so all of these things interconnect together. So everything's connecting back in to the DNA for business in what we're doing, which again gives us positive motivation and manipulation and our capabilities in what we're able to do. The third aspect is DNA for life. These are natural laws. So throughout the entire course, there's over 500 of these natural laws. And so when we look at the natural laws, that's the blue. So see, think, and do. So the natural law of gravity, like these are, it's irrelevant what our personality is. It's irrelevant of what we think. Like a natural law is a natural law. Believe it, don't believe it, this is what it is. This is something that seems to be a challenge for the media, big government, big education, big media, big pretty much everything, business, big everything. It's like you can define natural laws, and it's like, no, you can't, not long term. And so people don't understand you can't give away everything for free. You can't have free health care, free education. Somebody's paying for this. Like, so these are natural laws. For whatever reason, they somehow have been lost in our society. And if we don't understand the natural laws, we're going to lose leverage for mutual benefit. Tom, before we go in further, any further thoughts or questions or insights on this, Tom?
Again, it just makes so much sense, and especially once you get into the natural laws and really start to understand how all of those laws govern basically everything that we do. And it really is somewhat simplistic because all you have to keep thinking about is the law of gravity. You throw something up, it's going to come down. All the other 500 or 499 laws work the same kind of way.
Right. And it's so interesting, Tom, figuratively, like I'll tell one of my kids or one of my grandkids or somebody else, and I'll say, listen to Grandpa. He has some ideas. If you don't, you're going to get hurt. So figuratively, people jump out of the airplane without a parachute, and they say, well, Dad, Grandpa, Mark, I don't believe in that natural law, and you said I was going to die. And I'm like, uh-huh. And they're like, well, I'm not dead. I'm like, uh-huh. Like, people think natural laws are immediate. Like, you steal, you go to prison. Not most of the time, the people who steal the first time don't go to prison. It's the second. Eventually, the natural laws are going to kick in, and that's what our society doesn't understand. Like, it's not connected. Everything connects back into, so all of these things, again, give us positive motivation and manipulation and magical capabilities. So do we listen really deeply? So read the Clear Communication White Paper. Again, Personality Mastery Certification helps us to learn to listen based on personalities. Do we know how to listen and communicate to build intention? So are the people intentional, around us? Learning to listen to set up the ability to communicate capabilities. So what turns one personality on will turn another personality off. What builds trust in one personality will build distrust in another personality. So if we don't communicate our intention, not in the way we're intentional, so some people, if you give them a lot of details, it builds trust and intention. Other people, if you give them a lot of details, it builds distrust and they don't think your intentions are pure. Same thing is true with capability. So there is a really cool white paper library that you can go to, solutions.dnaforsuccess.com/white-paper-library, and there's unbelievable cool white papers on all kinds of stuff. So when we look at, do you ever wonder why someone is saying something to you, why they are talking at all? So, Tom, when people are talking to you, do you ever wonder why they're using the words that they're using, why they're talking at all?
Well, I think I could use this statement two ways. there are some people that I kind of in wonder that they're talking to me, and I'm trying to listen to every word that they say and internalize that into me. And then there are other people that are talking to me, and I'm thinking, why are you talking to me? You're wasting my time. You're not making any damn sense. And so, I think I'm just going to turn and walk away.
So I had that same feeling, Tom. So I asked the wizard. I'm like, wizard, why do people talk? Like, I don't understand it. And he said, Mark, there's actually 10 reasons why people talk. Did you know that, Tom?
No, but I'm looking forward to listening to them.
Right? Like, you can't find this on Google. So if people say, well, leverage, I'll just go to Google. Trust me, Google's not going to tell you what you need to know. Here are the 10 reasons. Number one is they're clueless. You can always tell when somebody's clueless when you say, excuse me, just real quick, why are you sharing that with me? And they look at you dumbfounded. They're like, I'm not sure why. Like they don't even know why. They're just clueless. They're just talking to talk, Okay. The second is ego. People talk to impress themselves and others. I think that's pretty clear. The third is to seduce, to draw people into their way of thinking. The fourth is to educate. And so people help, those around them to think, to understand something. Now, none of these are inherently good or bad. Like educating people is not necessarily bad unless they already know what you're talking about. And so you already understand what they're talking about. So some people, they just talk because they think they're smarter than everybody else, so they're always talking, and it's like, I already know that, probably a lot more. So sometimes that can be good, sometimes bad. The fifth is to connect. So it's weird where, like, people will be talking to me, and they think I'm listening, but I'm like Tom at times where I just, want to walk away, but they think they're connecting with me when they're really not. So they think somehow their talking somehow makes me feel good or something. Number 6 is to move people. So somebody's in a position, so helping somebody move from one level or a position to another. 7 is they're insecure. They talk because they do not like the silence. So they're just, they just have to be talking. The 8th is thinking. They think by talking. That's good for therapy, but not so good in a conversation, especially if you have a very active mind, like mine maybe or Tom's. If we shared everything we were thinking, it would confuse or overwhelm or vaporize people. So, and the mouth doesn't work nearly as fast as the brain. So in coaching, it's teaching people to shut your mouth, think about what you're saying, think about why you're saying it, think about the people who are listening, and thinking, and what I'm saying, is that the very best thing to say? Does that bring the most value to everybody involved? And then how are the different people? And you might be thinking, wow, Mark, I don't know. That sounds like a lot of work. Yeah, but it's significant. Number 9 is destruction, destroying something or someone or a way of thinking. Again, not inherently bad. Some things need to be destroyed. There's some thoughts out there that are evil, terrible. They're going to hurt people. So destroy that type of a thought. And then 10, my favorite, with intention. So it could be all of the above or something of great value and purpose. And so I seek, when I'm talking, to make every word count, because life is precious. Life is significant. Why would I want to waste even one word in idleness? So this is, Tom, what the wizard taught me. Any thoughts on this?
It's actually pretty amazing. You're absolutely right. When you go through, I could go through and show pros and cons on both sides of all 10 of these.
Right. Right.
And it could be. It's just an amazing process to think about.
So I have found with my social autism, Tom, that and if you're going to ask people frequently why they're talking, you definitely need to be diagnosed from the wizard with social autism. And so, like everybody in my life, am now using this more and more and saying, like, I'll just interrupt them. Just say, just excuse me, like, can you tell me why you're sharing what you're sharing? And then they'll pause, and then I'm like, there's 10 reasons why. And see, if I can find out why somebody's sharing something, Tom, oh my gracious, I can help them so much faster, and we don't waste a lot of time or energy. So we're going to open this up here for some Q&A here. And so there's going to be a 5-second pause, and then we'll go into the Q&A. Here we go.